You've been told happiness comes from within. Gratitude journals, positive thinking, choosing joy. But a psychologist who spent 20 years studying the human mind says that advice is only half right, and the half you're missing might be the reason nothing's working. The book is called The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist at NYU who set out to test the greatest ideas about happiness ever written. Not just from modern science, but from the Buddha, from Plato, from the ancient Stoics. And what he found is that almost every culture got part of the truth, but none of them got the whole picture. This video covers every major chapter of the book, so by the end, you'll understand exactly what happiness is, where it actually comes from, and why most people spend their entire lives chasing it in the wrong direction. Let's start with something that might explain every argument you've ever had with yourself. Haidt says the human mind is not one thing, it's two. And they're constantly fighting each other. He describes it like this. Imagine a rider sitting on top of a massive elephant. The rider is your conscious mind, your logic, your plans, your to-do lists, and New Year's resolutions. The elephant is everything else. Your emotions, your gut reactions, your cravings, your fears, your automatic habits that fire before you even realize what you're doing. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When the rider and the elephant disagree, the elephant almost always wins. Think of it like trying to steer a car where the steering wheel only works sometimes. You can turn it, pull it, grip it with both hands. But if the engine has a mind of its own, you're not really driving, you're just holding on. Meet Sam. He's a 31-year-old data entry coordinator at a mid-sized insurance company, earning $43,670 a year. Sam decided in January that he was going to wake up at 5:30 every morning and go to the gym. The writer had a plan, a perfect plan, spreadsheet and everything. Day 1, he made it. Day 2, barely. Day 3, his alarm went off and his hand slapped it silent before his eyes even opened. His elephant had spoken. No negotiation, no discussion, just no. And Sam lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering what was wrong with him. Nothing was wrong with him. His rider just didn't understand the elephant yet. But here's where it gets interesting. Haidt doesn't just describe the problem, he offers 3 real solutions. The first is meditation. Not the Instagram kind where you sit cross-legged and feel peaceful for a photo. Real meditation. The kind where you train your elephant, slowly, over weeks and months to react differently to the world. The research shows it physically changes the brain, thickening the prefrontal cortex and shrinking the amygdala's threat response over time. The second is cognitive behavioral therapy. This is where you learn to catch the elephant's automatic thoughts, those instant reflexive stories your brain tells you about yourself, and question whether they're actually true. Most people never question these thoughts, they just accept them like facts. And the third? Medication. Haidt doesn't shy away from this. For some people, the elephant's baseline is so anxious, so skewed toward negativity, that changing the chemistry is the most compassionate first step. Sam had tried affirmations. He'd tried vision boards. He'd tried cold showers at 6 a.m. because some podcast told him it would rewire his brain. But he'd never once considered that maybe his elephant wasn't broken. Maybe it just needed a different kind of training. Not louder commands from the rider, quieter patience with the elephant. And this is the part most people get completely wrong. Because Chapter 3 introduces something that reshapes how you think about every relationship you've ever had. Haidt says humans are wired, deeply wired, for reciprocity, tit for tat. You do something nice for me, I feel a powerful urge to do something nice for you. Someone betrays me, I feel a burning need for payback. This isn't a personality trait, it's evolutionary firmware. And it's been running in the background of human behavior for hundreds of thousands of years. It's like an invisible ledger that everyone carries around but nobody admits to having. Every favor given, every slight received, every unreturned phone call. Your brain is keeping score whether you want it to or not. Sam noticed this at work. His coworker brought him coffee one Tuesday morning. Completely unprompted, just showed up with it. And for the rest of that week, Sam felt an almost physical compulsion to return the gesture. He bought lunch on Thursday, not because he's generous, because the ledger was unbalanced and his elephant hated it. Haidt says this drive is so powerful that entire societies are built on it. Gossip, reputation, gratitude, revenge. They're all expressions of the same reciprocity engine running in every human brain. Now this next part is what really changed how I think about self-awareness. Chapter 4 is called The Faults of Others, and it's brutal. Haidt says we are all hypocrites, every single one of us, not because we're bad people, because our brains are literally designed to judge others by their actions and ourselves by our intentions. When someone cuts you off in traffic, they're a reckless idiot. When you cut someone off, you had a good reason. Haidt calls this the naive realism trap. The assumption that you see the world as it objectively is, and anyone who disagrees with you must be biased, ignorant, or irrational. Sam caught himself doing this after a performance review. His manager gave him a 7 out of 10, and Sam spent the entire drive home mentally listing every reason the score was unfair. The projects his boss didn't know about. The extra hours nobody noticed. But when Sam gave his intern a 6 out of 10 the week before, that was fair, that was accurate. He didn't even think twice. Same scoring system, completely different standard. Okay, so if that was surprising, wait until you hear this. Chapter 5 is where Haidt introduces the happiness formula, an actual equation. H equals S plus C plus V, your happiness. H is the result of 3 things. S is your set point. That's the biological baseline your brain returns to after good or bad events. Research by Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin found that people have measurable differences in frontal brain activity that predict their general mood. And roughly 50% of the variation in happiness between people is genetic. You heard that right. Half of how happy you feel was decided before you made a single choice. The natural reaction to hearing that is despair. If it's genetic, why bother trying? But that ignores the other 50% entirely. C is your conditions, the circumstances of your life. Your and V is your voluntary activities. The things you choose to do every day. Think of your set point like a thermostat in a house. It keeps pulling the temperature back to a default. But the conditions of the house, whether the windows are sealed, whether there's insulation, whether there's a draft blowing through, those things determine whether the thermostat has to work overtime or barely has to kick on at all. You can't swap out your thermostat, but you can absolutely fix the windows. Sam took this hard at first. He'd always believed that if he just tried harder, thought more positively, and pushed through the discomfort, he'd eventually feel different. But his set point had been pulling him back every single time. It wasn't laziness, it wasn't failure, it was biology. And understanding that, weirdly, was the first thing that actually brought him relief. Haidt gets specific about which conditions actually matter. Not all external circumstances are equal. Some are noise and some are signal. The ones that actually move the needle? Noise levels in your daily environment, commute length, sense of control over your work, the quality of your closest relationships, and, surprisingly, shame. Chronic shame is one of the most corrosive conditions a human being can live with. It eats happiness from the inside out quietly, like rust on iron. And the V, voluntary activities. These aren't one-time events, not a vacation, not a purchase, not even a promotion. The voluntary activities that increase happiness are the ones you do repeatedly by choice that create what psychologists call flow. In that state where you're so absorbed in something that time disappears and challenge meets skill perfectly. Meditation, creative work, physical exercise, acts of kindness. These aren't luxuries. According to the formula, they're necessities. Stay with me here because this next idea changes the game. Haidt says we are terrible at predicting what will make us happy. He references the famous study by Brickman, where researchers tracked lottery winners and people who had become paraplegic after accidents. 1 year later, the lottery winners were not significantly happier than everyone else, and the paraplegics were not as miserable as you'd expect. Both groups had adapted. The winners returned to their baseline. The paraplegics found new sources of meaning. This is called hedonic adaptation. It's the elephant's secret weapon. No matter what happens to you, good or bad, the elephant drags you back toward your set point. That promotion Sam had been chasing for 2 years, he got it in August. The excitement lasted exactly 11 days. By day 12, he was back to scrolling his phone at lunch, wondering when the next thing would finally make him feel alive. His salary went up. his happiness didn't move an inch. Now you might be thinking, so nothing matters? If we just adapt to everything, actually the opposite. Haidt argues that some things resist adaptation better than others. And the number one thing that resists adaptation is relationships. This brings us to chapter 6, and it might be the most important chapter in the entire book. Haidt pulls from John Bowlby's attachment theory and Harry Harlow's famous experiments with rhesus monkeys. Harlow gave baby monkeys 2 fake mothers, one made of wire that dispensed milk and one covered in soft cloth that gave no food at all. The baby monkeys clung to the cloth mother. They chose comfort and connection over nutrition. Every single time, even when they were hungry, Haidt argues that humans are exactly the same. We don't just want love. We are biologically constructed to need it. And the style of love we experience as infants shapes how we love as adults. Secure attachment, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment. These aren't personality quirks. They're deep patterns wired into your nervous system before you could even speak. A child who learns that their caregiver will be there when needed grows up trusting. A child who learns that love is inconsistent grows up anxious. A child who learns that reaching out leads to rejection grows up avoidant. Sam had always called himself independent, self-sufficient. He didn't need anyone. Or so the story went. But when he looked at his life honestly, really honestly, he realized he had 300 connections on social media and not a single person he could call at 2 a.m. His elephant had learned decades ago that needing people was dangerous. And his rider had built an entire identity around that fear, calling it strength, calling it self-reliance, calling it maturity. It was none of those things. Here's the part nobody talks about. Chapter 7 says suffering can actually make you better. Not always, not automatically. But under the right conditions, people who go through genuinely difficult experiences can emerge stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than they were before. Haidt calls this post-traumatic growth, and the research supporting it is remarkable. But, and this is crucial, the growth doesn't come from the suffering itself. It comes from the meaning you make out of it. James Pennebaker ran a landmark study where people wrote about their worst experiences for 4 consecutive days. I watched the people who just vented their emotions onto the page. No benefit. The people who showed deep, polished insight on day 1, also no benefit. The only group that improved, both physically and emotionally over the following year, were the ones who showed increasing insight across the 4 days. They were building a narrative, making sense of the chaos, finding the lesson buried inside the pain, not on day 1, but gradually, through the process of writing itself. It's like a broken bone that heals, if it heals properly, with support, with alignment, with the right conditions. The bone can actually become stronger at the fracture point than the surrounding bone. But if you ignore the break or pretend it never happened, it heals crooked, and it aches for the rest of your life. Sam had gone through a rough patch 3 years ago, lost his apartment, lost a relationship, nearly lost his job, all in the span of 4 months. He never talked about it, never processed it, just put his head down and pushed forward. He called it resilience. But the anxiety that followed him everywhere, the tight chest at random moments, the racing thoughts at 3 a.m., the inability to trust anyone new with anything real, that wasn't resilience. That was a bone healing crooked. And every time someone got close enough to bump against it, it hurt in ways he couldn't explain. And this is where Sam's story takes a turn. Chapter 8, The Felicity of Virtue, challenged everything Sam believed about self-improvement. Haidt goes back to the ancient Greeks and their idea of arete, excellence of character, not rule following, not checking boxes on a habit tracker, real virtue, the kind Benjamin Franklin pursued when he created his famous list of 13 virtues and tracked his daily progress in a small leather notebook. Franklin didn't just want to be productive. He wanted to be good. And he believed goodness was a skill you could practice, like playing an instrument. The key insight? Virtue isn't about restriction. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. Not by denying who you are, but by cultivating who you could be. Haidt argues that happiness and virtue are not separate goals. They feed each other. The happiest people aren't the most indulgent or the most successful. They're the most engaged, the most generous, the most connected to something beyond themselves. Haidt describes 3 levels of personality that need to align for real fulfillment. Your dispositional traits, the stable, heritable characteristics you were born with. Your characteristic adaptations, the goals, defenses, and values you've acquired over your life. And your life narrative, the story you tell yourself about who you are and where you're going. When all 3 levels harmonize, that's when people report the deepest sense of meaning, not just pleasure. Meaning. If you only remember one thing from this video, make it this next part. Chapter 9 gets strange, in the best way. Haidt talks about something he calls the vertical dimension of human experience. Most of modern psychology treats people as rational actors making calculated decisions on a flat plane. But Haidt says there's an entire dimension of human life that psychology mostly ignores. The experience of the sacred. Awe, elevation. That feeling you get when you witness something so morally beautiful that your chest opens up and your eyes sting with unexpected tears. He calls this emotion elevation. And he found it in religious people and atheists. In meditators and scientists, in monks and CEOs, it's not about God necessarily. It's about the human capacity to be moved by something bigger than ourselves. A sunset that stops you mid-sentence. A stranger's act of kindness that restores your faith in people. A piece of music that reaches some part of you that language can't touch. People who experience elevation regularly report dramatically higher levels of life satisfaction. It's not a bonus, it's a core ingredient. Sam wasn't religious. He hadn't been to a church since he was 12. But he remembered one moment, standing on a mountain ridge during a hiking trip 2 summers ago, when something shifted inside him. The view stretched for miles. The silence was enormous. His problems shrank to the size of a pebble against that horizon, and for about 90 seconds, everything was okay. Not good, not exciting, just completely, perfectly okay. He'd been chasing that feeling in all the wrong places ever since. In promotions that faded, in purchases that dulled, in achievements that evaporated. The ridge hadn't cost him anything. It just required him to show up. Now pay attention to this because it connects everything we've covered so far. The final chapter is called Happiness Comes from Between. And this is Haidt's ultimate thesis, the idea the entire book has been building toward. The ancient Eastern wisdom said happiness comes from within. Detach from the world, quiet the mind, find peace inside yourself. Modern Western culture says happiness comes from without. Achieve more, earn more, experience more, accumulate more. Haidt says they're both wrong, and they're both right. Happiness comes from between you and your relationships, between you and your work, between you and something larger than yourself. It's not locked inside your head, and it's not sitting in your bank account. It's in the connection, the quality of the fit between your inner life and your outer world. Love and work, Haidt says, are to people what water and sunshine are to plants. You need both. Remove either one and nothing grows. No amount of sunshine saves a plant without water. No amount of water helps without light. Sam sat with that idea for a long time. Weeks, actually. He'd spent years optimizing his inner world. Meditation apps, journaling prompts, positive affirmations whispered into the bathroom mirror every morning. And he'd spent years chasing external markers. The raise, the apartment upgrade, the better job title. But he'd neglected the between entirely. The friendships he let fade because he was too busy. The phone calls he never returned because he was too tired. The creative projects he abandoned because they didn't optimize anything measurable. The moments of awe he stopped making time for because they didn't show up on a productivity tracker. The happiness was never inside him. It was never outside him either. It was in the space between. Here are 5 things you can start doing right now based on what we just covered. First, learn your elephant. Pay attention to your automatic reactions for 1 full week. When you feel a sudden urge, a flash of anger, a wave of avoidance, don't fight it, just notice it. Write it down in a small notebook or your phone's notes app. The writer can't steer what it doesn't understand. Spend 7 days just observing your own patterns without judgment, and you'll start seeing the elephant's footprints everywhere, like in your food choices, your phone habits, your reactions to criticism, even the tone you use with people you love. Second, audit your conditions honestly. Go through the list Haidt identifies: noise, commute, control, relationships, shame. Rate each one on a scale of 1 to 10. You might discover that the thing making you most unhappy isn't what you thought it was. Maybe it's not your job at all. Maybe it's the 45-minute commute that drains you before you even arrive. Maybe it's the constant background noise in your open-plan office. Fixing the right condition can shift everything, and it's often cheaper and easier than the big dramatic life change you keep fantasizing about. Third, build one voluntary activity that creates flow, not entertainment, not scrolling, not passive consumption, something that absorbs you completely. Where challenge meets skill and time evaporates. It could be painting, playing an instrument, coding side projects, cooking elaborate meals, rock climbing, writing fiction. Schedule it like a doctor's appointment. Treat it like medicine. Because according to 2 decades of research, it basically is. Sam picked up woodworking, spent his Saturday mornings in a community workshop. 3 months later, he couldn't explain why, but his weeks felt different. Fuller, more textured. The flow state was doing what no amount of positive thinking ever could. Fourth, invest in one relationship this week. Not a text, not a like on a photo, not a heart emoji under someone's vacation picture. An actual conversation, a meal shared in person, a phone call where you ask a real question and actually listen to the answer. Haidt's research is unambiguous on this. If you want to predict how happy someone is, knowing about their social relationships tells you more than knowing about their income, their job title, or their health combined. One real connection this week, that's the assignment. And fifth, seek elevation deliberately. Go somewhere that makes you feel small in the best possible way. A cathedral with light streaming through stained glass, a mountain trail at dawn, a piece of music that cracks you open every single time you hear it. Watch someone do something extraordinarily kind and let yourself feel it without cynicism, without irony, without scrolling past. That vertical dimension Haidt describes isn't a luxury. It's a nutrient your soul has been starving for. Make room for awe, even if it's just 15 minutes in a single week. Your elephant remembers those moments longer than any achievement. That's it for this video. I hope it was useful and gave you something real to think about. Thanks for watching and have a great day.